Massive fuel price increase from Wednesday. Petrol is going up by a whopping 2.37 rand a litre for 93 octane. 95 octane will rise by 2.57 rand a litre. Diesel also going up by between 2.30 and 2.31 a litre. Illuminating paraffin is also increasing by 1.66 rand a litre. Government says the main reasons for the increase: the rise in crude oil prices, the unfavourable rand-dollar exchange rate, and the addition of levies that were halted as a short-term relief measure to address the fuel price increases earlier this year. The Democratic Alliance says it may have the answer to South Africa's ever-rising fuel prices. The opposition party has unveiled its fuel price deregulation bill. The party hopes it can convince Parliament to adopt it into law. From Wednesday, motorists will be paying well over 2 rand extra for a litre of diesel and petrol. Lindsay Dentlinger has some details now about the DA's proposal. Lindsay, good afternoon. What is the DA proposing?
Well, good afternoon, Dan. It's been part of its campaign in recent weeks from the DA, first starting off with a petition trying to get the minister to slash the fuel price by doing away with levies, essentially, which the DA don't believe should be imposed. And today it's culminated in them unveiling a bill which will be published for public comment later this week. Essentially, Dan, looking to take away all the powers that the Minerals and Energy Minister has to control the price of fuel, especially his control over retailers, his control over suppliers, his control over the equipment that traders may use. And the DA believes if we can remove some of those powers from the minister, and essentially that greatest power that he has to regulate the price of fuel and allow for greater competition in the market, that consumers at the end of the day will be far better off if they are allowed to, just like they are proposing for electricity and other goods that just continue to soar, that if we are allowed to choose where we go and if retailers are allowed to be more competitive, that it will drive down the price of fuel. But here's the DA's Kevin Milam outlining some of those regulations that they want scrapped in the law and that they say will be of benefit to consumers in the long term.
It seeks to amend the Petroleum Products Act, which gives the minister the power to prescribe the price of petroleum products. Our primary objective here is to deregulate the fuel sector so as to increase competition in fuel price setting at both wholesale and retail level. It is envisaged that this will result in lower petrol prices for consumers at the pump as retailers compete to win customers based on price. Our bill will curtail the wide-ranging powers afforded to the minister to regulate the price of petroleum, both indirectly and directly, and all the practices related to the sale of petroleum. It will result in a deregulated market for petroleum products being established in South Africa. And it does this primarily through the removal of certain sections within Section 2 of the Petroleum Products Act, which gives the ministers those powers. Examples of the indirect powers we are seeking to repeal, which the minister may use to influence the fuel price, include prohibiting the supply of necessary equipment required to dispense petroleum products. We will still allow the minister to determine the standard of equipment to dispense the fuel products, but he should not have the power to regulate who a retailer purchases that equipment from, or whether or not a retailer may purchase a particular type of equipment.
I guess with all these proposals by the DA, there's one question that will be top of mind, particularly ahead of Wednesday, Lindsay, is what do they think should the price of fuel be, and how are they proposing government can achieve this?
Well, essentially getting rid of those fuel levies, Dan, which we know government makes around 90 billion rand a year on what they, is an easy tax really to collect. And the DA reckons that those who have valid third-party insurance should be allowed to claim a rebate off that 2 rand some odd that goes towards the road accident fund. And it doesn't believe that we should be paying this general fuel levy because it says that most of that money goes wasted anyway to corruption. But Dan, they reckon about 19 Rand a litre would be a more fair assessment for the price of fuel right now. Of course, you had to take into account what the global oil price is, so there's no getting away from that. But the DA believes it is possible to drive down the price of fuel, given the fact that South Africa exports fuel to countries like Namibia and Botswana, who pay far less than South Africans do for the same fuel, because they are not loaded with the kinds of levies that we are here in South Africa. But here's the DA's Kevin Milam again explaining how they come to that assessment of what we should be paying for fuel.
Right now, a litre of petrol should cost somewhere in the region of about 19 Rand a litre, 19 to 20 Rand a litre.
That's still quite a lot.
It's still high, but given the high oil prices and the Rand-dollar exchange rate, that's a realistic price. If you take the taxes out of the fuel price, that price is very much a realistic fuel price.
Thank you very much, Lindsay Dentlinger, with that update about DA's proposal, how the government should be approaching the price of fuel.